folks say you come off as very scripted. They say you like to stick to your talking points, and some media says you have.
That would be called discipline.
Ooh.
Okay, but go on.
Oh, shit.
Some people say you have an inability to fearlessly say who you are and what you believe.
She spun
I know
it.
that's not true. But what do you say to that criticism? To the people who say you stay on the talking points.
I would say you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. I love having conversations, which is why I'm so happy to be with you this afternoon. And the reality is that there are certain things that must be repeated to ensure that I have everyone know what I stand for and the issues that I think are at stake in this election.
There has to be a high level of anxiety, too, when you have these conversations, though, because you are running for president.
I mean, you know what? There's certainly a lot of, I feel the weight of the moment. And
That's a really good, I got the chills when she said that right there. I feel the weight. Because, to shift gears, this is another thing that I personally find heartbreaking about people's fealty to somebody like Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not recognize the weight of his position. He consistently refuses to acknowledge the weight of who he is and where he is on the power structure. And in fact, he fails miserably at recognizing the weight of what it means to be president. He showed up at that debate completely unprepared. He goes to rallies and just rambles for, 50 minutes off script. Because for him, he doesn't take seriously that being a president for everybody, being a president and a global influence on the world is just a really important role that is life or death for people. And he treats it like he should just be able to show up and wing it and just talk about whatever for like an hour. And that's, to him, is good enough because he doesn't take the role and the power and the responsibility that comes with the role seriously. And that's really problematic. Nobody should support him because of that, because he demeans the office. The office is a very powerful, very important job that affects the lives of hundreds of millions of people in America and billions globally. And so if you're running for it, you want to do that job, you should really take it serious, And he doesn't.
I feel the weight of the moment and my role. I feel an extraordinary weight of responsibility right now.
God damn.
To do everything I can. This is a margin of error race. It's tight.
It is
I'm
very tight. Dude.
I'm gonna win. But it's tight.
Dude.
And
I love her
what
confidence.
Is at stake is truly profound and almost and historic, many would say.
I love that. That answer. The minute she said that, bro, I just got the chills.
What's up?
Let's go.
Vice President.
How you doing?
How you doing today? As we say in Detroit, what up, though? So yesterday I read that there is a new opportunity agenda, a plan for black men, which includes a proposal of forgivable loans up to $20,000 for 1 million black entrepreneurs. What would you say to the people that would consider the timing of this proposal as political timing? And how would you speak to the sentiment that support for black men is only sought out during election cycles and feels that building trust requires consistent engagement and genuine investment into the community outside of election periods?
Let's go, boss!
And political benefits for
Let's go. Thank you for that prime.
And may view
Dude, that's
that
a fair
some people
question.
in the Democrat Party use black Americans to play identity politics.
So first of all, thank you for your question and for being here. I've been in this race about 70 days. You can look at all my work before those 70 days to know that what I'm talking about right now is not new and is not for the sake of winning this election. This is about a long-standing commitment, including the work that I've done as vice president and before when I was senator and before that. In fact, a lot of what I'm doing that is about my economic agenda and opportunity economy was born out of the work I did as vice president, before that as senator most recently, to get access to capital for our entrepreneurs. The work that I did in the Senate was about getting a couple billion more dollars into our community banks, and then building on that when I became vice president, I created, it's called the Economic Opportunity Council, bringing in some of the biggest banks and technology companies to put more into the community banks. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why, because I have been aware for years, Black entrepreneurs only get 1% of venture capital funding.
Yikes.
Of all the venture capital funding,
Dude,
only 1% goes to Black entrepreneurs.
1% is brutal.
We don't have the same rates of access to capital, be it through family or through
1%.
Which
That's
is why
rough,
I've done the work of putting billions more dollars and working to put billions more dollars into community banks, which go directly to the community. My work around the $20,000 is building on that and understanding that, I convened, for example, I said this earlier, a group of Black entrepreneurs way before I was running for president in my official office at the White House to hear some of the obstacles that they were facing. And one of them was what we need to do around getting folks the help to just be able to buy the equipment they need to run their business. And oftentimes we find that when Black entrepreneurs and Black people apply for credit, they're denied at a higher rate than others.
Huge. And then they get shittier interest rates,
and the
too.
data proves this, that all of the realities also tend to dissuade Black folks and Black entrepreneurs in particular from even applying for credit. So my point is to work on every way that we can approach the issue to encourage people and to invest in their ambition. Because I know the ambition is there. I know the talent is there. I know the innovation is there. And certainly the hard work ethic. Absolutely. So this is not new work for me. And
you should speak to the American Rescue Plan, too, because, tens of millions of dollars. I know small businesses in North Carolina, small Black businesses that got tens of millions of dollars because of that. I don't hear you speak to that.
That's right. And that was from the first time, from when we first came in. Mm-hmm. The American Rescue Plan, the work that we have done, the infrastructure bill. Part of that is we made a decision that we were going to increase the number of federal contracts that go to historically underrepresented businesses.
That's good.
This was way before I was running. This years ago.
Dude, we need representation
this is not
like that. Let's go.
And to destroy our democracy, you know what he says he'll do? Terminate the Constitution of the United States.
That's right.
Let me remind folks, you know what's in the Constitution of the United States? The Fourth Amendment, which protects you against unreasonable searches and seizures. The Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. And he's going to terminate the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
In most of those amendments, one thing or another was about a movement spurred by Black people to ensure that we would be equally protected under the law. Come on.
Let's take a question from Talkback.
Hi, my name is Joshua Fisher.
She's
age
feisty.
31 years old, African-American male from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'd like to
go
ask
Vegas.
Madam Vice President what laws does she have planned to make sure that there's a stop to police brutality and murders that have been going on viciously?
So again, the work that I have done through my career and then most recently even when I was in the United States Senate to help write the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Mm-hmm. Cory Booker and I work very closely on that.
Could you tell people why that didn't pass too? Give folks a quick civics lesson.
We couldn't get the votes in Congress. Mm-hmm. There's a clip somewhere of me fighting with a Republican senator to actually... Right, to actually get it passed. We couldn't get it passed. But what we did when we came in office and during the time that I've been vice president is we passed an executive order. So whereas we were trying, and I have been trying to make these things national so that everyone would have to do it, an executive order by the president and our administration says that for federal law enforcement, the following things have to happen, which we for the first time put in place. No-knock warrants, barring chokeholds, a national database for us to collect information and track police officers who have broken the law.
That's really important.
Small issue. This piece.
Yeah, the national database of tracking police officers. This is so important. And make no mistake, guys, this is one of the core issues in 2024 because Donald Trump trying to say he's going to grant full immunity to every local law enforcement person in the country where they can never be prosecuted for anything they do on the job would be horrible. That means a cop can just pull a woman over and rape her. Nothing can happen. You walk away from him and he's mad. He pulls out his gun, blows your fucking brains out. no charges. It would be ruthless. They should have zero immunity. In fact, we should go a step further that if they abuse people's civil rights and they lose in a lawsuit, they should have to pay that money and not the taxpayers. Because right now they can fucking brutalize people, get a $5 million judgment against them, and then the taxpayers pay that shit. And even if the cop gets fired, they go, across the country, they leave Texas and go over to Alabama and get a new police job. And her thing about talking about having a national database of officers that have broken the law, like we have it for criminals, why don't we have it for police officers?
In addition to everything else, because as we know, we've seen plenty of examples of a police officer who committed misconduct in one jurisdiction and then goes to another jurisdiction and gets hired because there's no place that's tracking their misconduct.
I can't believe they don't
these
track
are some of the things that we've done. And then, listen, I'm still going to always work on getting the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed. Part of the work that I'm doing as a candidate for President of the United States includes lifting up those candidates who are running either for re-election or for the first time to Congress
to try and pass that shit.
Of what we need to do on all of the issues we've been discussing, whether it be freedom to vote and passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, whether it be freedom to make decisions about your own body, whether it be the freedom to just be and be free from any brutality, including police brutality when and where it occurs.
I think a lot of the frustration comes from people who will say sometimes politicians volunteer lies because, yes, it's great to try to pass the George Floyd Policing Act, but you probably know you can't get the votes. So why push that? Why push that on people knowing you can't get the votes?
I don't subscribe to that approach, and I'm going to tell you why. It took a long time for the Voting Rights Act to get done. It took the brutality of what happened when John Lewis and all those were trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It took a lot of work over our history to do what we have accomplished thus far.
She's making a really good point. Instead of like, I don't have the votes to get the George Floyd Act, so f*** it. But you have to go in thinking we're going to get that passed. And then maybe you do get the votes, right? Think about it. John McCain went thumbs down, which is why Obamacare is still here. Donald Trump thought he was getting it removed. Everybody thought they had it, but I guess you do have to sort of believe you can get the votes, and then you try to get the votes, as opposed to thinking, well, we're never going to get the votes. And I mean, I guess I kind of do that optimism too, where even if I don't see any signs of what I'm doing that, like, I don't see how it's going to work out, there's no verifiable data that I'm making the right choice and that I'm going to be able to do the thing, but I just believe that I'm going to do the thing and it's going to work out. And then I keep doing the thing. And a lot of times it works out though. If you believe, not if you're faking it, but if you really believe that, like, I'm going to do this thing and people are like, there ain't no way you're doing that thing, but you believe, like, no, I know it doesn't look like I'm doing the thing, but I'm going to do this thing. If you really believe it, you'll do the thing, man. It's kind of like this idea that, that the universe will pave the way, but it doesn't pave the way until you really put yourself into it, believing that it will.
And we have to remain committed.
How do you convince Republican senators, as you just said?
Well, part of it,
senators,
part of it is that their constituents are part of this. I mean, we have plenty of folks who want this, who live in districts where they serve. And this is the point. This gets back to the earlier point about you can't let anybody take you out of the game by not voting.
Yeah.
The solutions, and maybe this is the point you're making about what President Obama said, the solutions are not going to happen just overnight. And the solutions that we all want are not going to happen in totality because of one election. But here's the thing. The things that we want and are prepared to fight for won't happen if we're not active and if we don't participate. We cannot allow circumstances to take us out the game, because then basically what we're saying is all those people who are obstructionists, who are standing in the way of change, they're winning.
Yeah.
Because they're convincing people
That's so true, dude.
The things that we want and are prepared to fight for won't happen if we're not active and if we don't participate.
Yes, you got to participate.
Allow circumstances to take us out the game, because then basically what we're saying is all those people who are obstructionists, who are standing in the way of change, they're winning. Because they're convincing people
You that it can't be done.
that it can't be done, so take yourself out. Don't participate. Look at that circle. Look at that vicious circle then. So let's not fall for it.
It's so true. That's been sort of a huge part of the Republican and right-wing ethos for a while now, is to flood you with obstruction and roadblocks and trying to just, undermine every progress that you make. And they do it so eventually you'll just stop trying to make progress. But you have to keep coming back. You have to keep coming back. If they obstruct and there's no way through, but you show up every day and you push on that door, you just keep pushing, you keep pushing, you keep pushing. And you have to, because it's almost like you got to double down when there's obstructionists, because they're trying to get you to believe it can't be done. So you just stop trying.
And let's talk about the contrast here. Donald Trump and his followers spend full time trying to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, which is absolutely contrary to the church I know.
He sells Bibles, though.
Where our church and my church
He sells Bibles,
is about
though.
saying true leadership. The measure of that is based on who you lift up.
Dude, that was
And
classic.
And then he's selling $60 Bibles
Made in China,
or
too.
tennis shoes. And,
Dude.
and trying to play people as though that makes him more understanding of the black community.
He's selling made in China $3 Bibles.
Thank you for the correction.
Thank you, Reverend.
And God is
Appreciate you.
good.
to see you again.
Every day, all the time.
There you go. I had to make sure you get that right. Now, have you seen the clip, Madam Vice President, from the Griot? It's a clip that's kind of out of context, and it says that you won't do anything specifically for black people. Have you seen that? Have you?
I have not seen that.
Well, it's a clip that has you saying that you're not going to do anything specifically for black people.
Well, that's just not true. And listen, again, you said it at the beginning of this visit, Charlamagne. One of the biggest challenges that I face is mis and disinformation. And it's purposeful because it is meant to...
She also faces the challenge that black women, historically, women of color, just get looked at with such fucking side eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter how legitimate they are, no matter how brilliant, no matter how successful, no matter how powerful they are, they get looked at like they're not worthy, like they didn't deserve to get what they got, like they haven't earned it. You know what I mean? You see it all the time, dude. It's like the judgment that gets levied against them.
As I pose my question to you, I would first like to make it known that I don't have any emotional connections to politicians. I believe that this is one of our biggest flaws in the current political process. I view politics as a business, and America is one of the biggest corporations in the world. With that being said, I'm here on behalf of the business of the black community. With all that black Americans have been through and contribute to the success of America, I feel that there should be
huge
an in-depth investigation or evaluation of the lack of resources and current living conditions in black communities nationwide.
Dude, I agree.
My question to you is, what's your stance on reparations? We all know that America became great, off the backs of free black labor.
Yeah.
How progressive are you on making it a priority and righting America's wrongs?
Dude, I really like this
It's
guy.
understood that you are running for president for all people of America. Asking for specifics for black communities doesn't mean don't do for others, but black Americans are heavily asked to vote Democrat in every election for over half a century, with very little in return. What are your plans to address these very important issues and change that narrative?
Thank you, Zeke.
I appreciate that.
Zeke.
Thank you. And thank you for your work. So to your point, yes, I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you.
See, it's really interesting because I believe, I'm going to go on the record saying this about reparations. I don't think reparations would just all of a sudden fix the problem, right? I don't. But I believe some type of reparations would be incredibly world-changing. And the reason being is America was built on the backs of black people and their labor. And then those same black people, even after they were free, were prosecuted, harassed, convict leased, enslaved in other ways by redlining, starving of resources, burning down Black Wall Street, et cetera, et cetera. And so to try and right the wrong would be a karmic move of epic proportions. Because one of the things I realized in getting sober is sometimes when you're trying to make amends, the things you do to make amends don't actually move the needle and they don't fix the problem. But the fact that you put yourself out and the fact that you symbolically do the action to make the amends is world changing. And this is why passing some common sense gun laws are the way to go, because what it is a shooting happens and then you try to make amends for the shooting by doing something, okay? Something meaningful. And when you do that something meaningful, it is a start.
I know who our small business owners are, and I have convened black small business owners way before I was running for president in my official office at the White House to talk with young entrepreneurs, mostly young, about the work that they are doing that is about clean energy work, technology, as well as the traditional, whether it be a barbershop or a restaurant. One of the big issues facing black entrepreneurs and black small businesses is access to capital. Because unlike my opponent, who got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, don't forget that, calls himself a businessman. Not everybody has access to
it's true,
the capital, but we know
calls
in the
himself a
we
businessman
do not lack for ambition, aspirations, dreams, hard work ethic. And so my work has been as vice president to
she never misses the opportunity to get those like zingers
banks.
In there.
And as
she's very
vice
sharp.
president, part of that work will also be to change the tax deduction for startup small businesses from $5,000 to $50,000. Because nobody can start a small business on $5,000. And if you don't otherwise have...
Now, she also, I saw a policy where she was saying she wants to give, possibly forgivable loans to black entrepreneurs who want to start a business. Have an application for forgivable loans.
How are you going to be able to do it?
That would be huge.
Second point on small business is this. I'm going to do, basically, it's a program
I'd love
that
to see
is
shit
about
like
a $20,000 non-refundable loan to to basically businesses that don't have access to wealth and don't have those relationships, which is going to directly impact a lot of black-owned small businesses. That $20,000 non-refundable loan is what would help somebody if they need to buy equipment. Right? If they need to buy an extra truck, depending on what that business is, which we know that's a big part of what holds back our small businesses. Just having enough capital to actually pay for the things that allow you to then put your hard work into play to actually grow your business. We have brought down black unemployment, I said this earlier, to one of the lowest levels in history. But I'm very clear. The community is not going to stand up and applaud just because everybody has a job. That should be a baseline. My agenda is about tapping into the ambitions and the aspirations, knowing that folks want to have an opportunity. If they want, they should have a meaningful opportunity to build wealth, including intergenerational wealth. And that's my agenda. This interview, I think, is great. It wasn't all softball. You could tell there was definitely some personality, but he's definitely pushed back and provided some challenge and shit. And I feel like she really shines in, a challenging environment. She's so cool and collected. She's only been a candidate for 2 months. But what I have seen
from her just in that 2-month period of time is how she has evolved. She's way more self-assured, way more focused and on point and just connected. Like when she stopped to kind of put in that zinger about Donald Trump's business, she leaves out no opportunity. She has certain policy things that she keeps repeating, certain ideas about like the child tax credit, the business tax deduction. So there's certain things that policy points that she keeps coming back to. But she'll be in the middle of answering a question. She'll bring in a few relevant policy points, kind of hit her platform, pop in a zinger or two on her opponent or on some of the misinformation, and then really package it all together. But it's funny, too, because everyone's been giving her so much shit. Like, oh, she's hiding from the media. She can't exist. But, bro, she is like swinging. You ask Donald Trump, how are you going to fix grocery prices? And he's going to launch into a 17-minute discussion about Hannibal Lecter and just promise that he's going to cut everyone's energy bills in half in like the first week. Because the guy can't answer a fucking question, dude. He just sits there and like bullshits.